Yeah, because I'm curious to see what it looks like.
Okay, so technically I'm live.
Okay.
It should post under my account.
Okay, I'll go to your account.
So apparently I could also let you broadcast this.
I am.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I see it. Cool. And Harold's nice. So that works. So chat works. So now we can see what's going on. Do I need to? How do I broadcast? Do I share a link too?
Yeah, you can share that link next time. Oh, here you go.
Where's the link?
I'll share it with you in the private chat here.
Okay.
So you can share that link. Go directly there.
Cool. Will this link be the same when we go live again, or is it different each time?
It might be different each time. But okay, so what's really cool is I can pair you up if I add you.
All right, posting it. Cool. All right, I posted it on my
Nice.
on my account. So I can just put this link like on LinkedIn and Twitter everywhere, and then people can just use that to watch that way.
Yeah. So there's also a LinkedIn one.
Okay, cool.
Here. Put that here.
So that's the LinkedIn one.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do that later. So will the links be the same when we go live again? I guess
Maybe
we'll
just stay on.
we could just like, I could just go turn the camera. I could just go mute and then when we're ready to go live, let's turn on. Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello. How are you?
We're live.
We're live, but we need to post a link in order for people to see it, right?
No, it should be the same one. You want to share?
Because like actually, even Arjun could post a link on his LinkedIn and stuff too, and it would
Exactly. Do you want?
Cool.
Here's the. I'll paste it.
Yeah,
Right,
I'll grab that link.
Those are the links I get. Let me do that too.
Cool.
As you can see, we're still figuring this out.
Yeah, all good.
I think the backstage part is fun. A lot of podcasts do that now, like kind of banter in the beginning, and then you kind of live like in 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Do a little bit of intro, talk about cool stuff.
I even wrote Arjun a nice formal intro.
I got a sneak peek.
You.
This will be fun. I'm telling everyone we're going live at noon, so we can kind of do a little backstage and then.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Right.
Yep, sounds good.
Nice. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure this out. See if we can have like a pre-show.
Yeah, exactly.
Pre-show chat.
In a pre-show for 10 minutes. So yeah, we started this as like an X space, and I was really into trying to make the X space work, but
Really tried.
technology just like it would like stop working, and then I was the host, so I couldn't log back in and like restart the space. So I would drop off, and then Paul's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "Oh my God."
Everything stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
That was quite funny, actually. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't restart it," because normally I go on someone else's space, and it always would happen, right?
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'll put my headphones on. And then we had like I guess when we started doing the live stream like this, I felt like the conversations are better because you can see the other person, and there's just a lot of information. You can see when they're ready to talk, so you don't talk over each other. Like when it's audio only, that might be what holds back a lot of these audio only platforms like AirChat and all that stuff. Without the like visual of
context. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it it's not as good of a conversation.
Agreed. Right.
This looks good. This is different than what we used last time, Paul.
Yeah, last time we just used the Zoom. We just recasted Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Platform, I see. Oh my God, dude, this is gonna be so professional.
Almost.
Yeah, that's great.
It's so much fun. Arjun, are you at home today?
Yeah.
I'm doing. My home setup is much more comfortable. I broadcast last time from 9-0 down in down in downtown Seattle.
Yeah,
and like
nice.
My home setup, like just the office and the lighting, and I got my monitor and books I never read, and
yeah, all the good things.
That's right. I swear, there's someone who gave me this book, and I read most of it. And I totally forgot about it. And then I posted something like, I haven't read a book in years. And they literally called me out on Twitter and were like, you said you read my book. And I'm like, I actually did read it. I totally forgot.
Just got called out. Yeah, exactly.
Oops, sorry. I felt bad because I was like, I actually did read it too. It wasn't like bull. Like I did read the book. And then I'm like, oh, dude, sorry.
Yeah, that's funny. I have
in general,
so many unread books. No, just so many unread books right now. I feel like there's a term for it in some language where you collect. I think it's in Japanese. They have a specific term for folks who buy books and they are left unread. So I'm going to go find that later.
Dude, someone said that's the new signing up for your Substack.
Or, right. Buy someone's book.
Like, dude, I subscribe. I never read any of it, but I love that you do it. I have them all in my inbox ready to go someday.
Sondoku is the Japanese term for a habit of buying more books than one can read and letting them pile up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's a good one. I'm definitely in that category.
Yeah.
I always felt bad because I'm like kind of nerd that would like really read it. And it would happen a lot where someone would give me a book and then I would read it, and then it would come back with like a lot of opinions, and I could tell that like maybe they hadn't read it or something. And then I'm like, oh yeah, and then on page 27, and then on 52, and I disagree with this and this and that. And then I kind of then I felt bad. I was like, oh, like you were just giving me that as a gift. I see. Like, yeah. Like see that at work. Like people give you like books at work all the time, and then I would like read them. Yeah, when I was young,
actually read them.
I remember like the management would give it to me, and I'd read the whole thing and be like, dude, you guys, did you guys? And then they were like,
they're like, what? You actually read the book?
Oh, God help me.
Great. No, it's great. That's a great life lesson in there. If you're a young and ambitious professional, read the books that they give you. It's actually good for you.
If I give you it, I've read it. Like I want to give you one, or I tell you, like I did not read this, but a lot of people have said it's that's actually a good idea. I want to work on a reading list. I did have a few people request that, and then I realized I hadn't read a lot of like new books. All the things I was talking about were quite old, so I got to find a few new ones.
New ones.
Yeah.
Sahil's book is really good.
Oh yeah,
really, really good.
Which one is this?
From Sahil.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he's great.
So good.
I got this, but it's not really a book. It's more like a journal.
What did you
get done this week? Oh, so that's good.
It's cool.
Yeah, that's great.
It's got some quotes and stuff in it. That's why I got it. I was like, I love that whole like, what did you get done this week? But it's technically not a. It's
slightly of a meme on Twitter now because of Elon.
It's got quotes and stuff. It's kind of like reading Twitter. It's got like cool things, which is it's kind of fun. It's good for me. I like it.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I need to find some new interesting books. So Sahil's book is good.
Really good. Yeah, I usually don't. Yeah. What else?
Yeah, you have other recommendations?
I don't know. Buy Back Your Time. I read that for the first time this year. That was really good. By Dan Martell.
Oh yeah, Dan's an old buddy. He's great.
It's awesome.
I still like old books. There's some like classics that I recommend to everybody. I think the number one like classic, let's say biz book I'd recommend is Andy Grove, like from Intel. Is Only the Paranoid Survive. That's another book where like I feel like it's really famous, but I feel like a lot of people have never read it or something because like all the advice in there is really counterintuitive to a lot of things that people say or that are popular.
Right.
Yeah, I've written a lot about like he believes in one-on-one meetings should be at least an hour.
Yeah.
A lot of people
do this
frequently.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, a lot of people out there pushing the whole like everything is about efficiency.
30 minutes.
5-minute meeting, like all this stuff, and he's got some things in that book that are like right, like, and he goes into detail about why he thinks a short one-on-one is not good.
It's not good. Yeah, I think that if you're doing one-on-ones all the time, then you have to keep them short. But if you are doing a true one-on-one where you're actually connecting about someone's career and longer term, just strategy and what they want to do with their life, then you can't do that in 30 minutes. Frankly, that just doesn't work.
Yeah. He also is saying that it forces people to like only discuss things that can be discussed quickly. And so there are problems that are much larger and they never get addressed because you're forcing everything.
Get in a short period of time. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. There's also some good stories about like the early days of Intel. Like the company's been around a while and how they were in like the memory chip space before they got into CPUs and how that transition happened. And like, it's so old. Some of the stories are great. Like he's talking to engineers that like run different like factories. Like this stuff was like, not like SaaS
operations. Yeah.
And like how much time it took and convincing them to like, they would have to change over the plant to build something new. It wasn't like easy to get people to be convinced of like, changing what they were manufacturing and stuff like that. High stakes stuff.
Very.
Paul, what's the weather like in Toronto today?
55, 60, around 60 Fahrenheit.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Is that warm?
we got in here? 62 in Marin County right now.
Oh, man.
Nice. You're
My
both
wife went
in
to
Seattle?
California. What?
Is Murray near Seattle? That's
Marin is just north of San Francisco. It's the county north of the Golden Gate Bridge.
okay. All right,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Closer than San Francisco. Yeah.
Yeah, very close. So, from here to the Golden Gate Bridge is like 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Dude, Seattle summer is already over. We had like a week,
You're done now.
80-degree weather. It was beautiful. And then today I like wore like a winter coat to go to the gym
Oof.
this morning. Like I went outside and I was like, I'm not overdressed. Like this is
Right.
actually,
This is actually the weather. Yeah.
it's actually cold. Yeah, it's a little gray today. I hope it'll be nicer this weekend. Like when we had some nice weather and then it, it'll get temperamental and rain, but it should be a lot nicer in a week or so.
Nice.
You do get a couple of months where it's like nicer than San Francisco. San Francisco's always cold and foggy too.
Yeah, it was yesterday. It was freezing.
Like it is here. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But in Marin, Paul, where he's in Marin,
Yeah.
weather's much. It's like north across the Golden Gate Bridge,
Mm-hmm.
and that place is like the weather is really nice.
Interesting.
Yeah, the microclimates of like the Bay Area are fascinating. Like it's really dramatic.
The differences?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
like-
totally. Even within the city, it's crazy. Yeah.
Like 20, 30 degrees. So where we lived in Walnut Creek was really hot in the summer, like 110.
Yeah. Walnut
Wow.
Creek is surprisingly hot. It's kind of eerily hot.
It's only like 20 miles or something from San Francisco. Like it's not far, but the climate is just like night and day different.
Yeah.
All right, we got 1 minute, and then we're gonna go live.
All right. We get jump in. Yeah. Or
Oh my God, this is so fun. Okay. You saw we put in the
yes, saw
in the
that.
doc.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's kind of go through some of the news items and
sounds
stuff.
good.
A few Reddit threads in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna check those ones out.
A lot of
Yeah.
good news this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I even wrote us a official intro now.
Now
Nice.
We
need,
just kind of kick off the space. It's kind of blabber on. I was like, okay, we're gonna take this seriously
Let's make
today.
it
I'm gonna do an
professional.
intro.
Yes.
I'm gonna write Arjun a beautiful bio.
Yeah,
big,
that was very nice.
beautiful
Thank you.
bio.
That was great.
All right, we're live, right?
We're live.
Excellent.
All right.
Well, welcome to the Gregory and Paul Show, where we break down the latest in startups, SaaS, AI, and whatever the internet is debating this week. We aim for smart takes. Many times we end up with dumb ones. We'll hit on a few scorchers. And of course, we love memes way too much. We stream this live on X and LinkedIn. We upload it to YouTube. Someday we'll get around to putting this on Apple Podcasts so people can listen to it at the gym. God forbid they would want to do that. Today, we have our first guest, Arjun Dev Arora, who I have known for many years. So I wrote this nice bio for you, Arjun. Are you ready?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's do it.
Early stage tech investor and managing partner at Format One in San Francisco. He built and sold Pioneer, ReTargeter, served as a partner at 500 startups, was entrepreneur in residence at Expa. I met you at ReTargeter.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Many years ago.
Let's see. You've been, as an angel investor, early checks have gone into Flexport, Notion, Virta Health, Branch, Firefly Aerospace, Tonal, Pipe, Grove Collaborative, and then you've had exits with Teachable, Truebill, and Starship. Very impressive. And then, of course, you also back funds, including Streamlined Ventures, the House Fund, Susa Ventures, Caffeinated Capital. I have to meet these guys. Like, I'm shocked I don't know them. And what is the last one we got here? Rocketship VC. Beyond Venture, you've chaired a $100 million healthcare foundation and now sit on the board of the SFJAZZ Center, which I love. Huge fan. Been there many times. And you've been honored by the White House and the UN. And we are so glad for you to be the first guest on our show.
Yeah, thank you both. Excited to be here. And yeah,
Welcome.
looking forward to diving in on all these fun topics. So thank you both.
Oh my God. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to discuss this week. So Paul, should we kick it off with some of the nerdiest news out there? And we can get
Yeah,
Arjun to weigh in.
Sounds good.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, big news in AI this week. The first thing was a release of a paper called The Illusion of Thinking by Apple. Essentially, this paper outlines from Apple's perspective on whether if LLMs are conscious or not, or are they able to go about and reason.
Your dog's barking there, buddy.
Sorry, guys. Essentially, they published a paper talking about if a. I'm sorry, guys. All right, you want to take over this one?
Yeah. So, Arjun, do you see this? It was this paper that the Apple team put out, which there's two ways to talk about this. One is like, it's quite funny that Apple, which appears to be behind in the AI space, is putting out papers debunking AI, right?
Yeah.
Like my tweet was like, look, is this what the Siri team has been working on instead of making Siri better? Because it doesn't really work for me at all, right? Which is one interesting kind of way to look at this. On the other hand, I do think they made some great points that, like, you know, perhaps AI can't, or we're not in the realm of achieving something like AGI. Arjun, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it sounds like with the paper they're basically saying that accuracy collapses under complexity. That as problems become more complex, the model uses fewer reasoning tokens. So it's basically saying that it's quitting and not actually seeing things all the way through. And then there's also saying that it failed to kind of apply things that actually worked, or understanding kind of the algorithm. Even when they knew what the algorithm was to work on the problem, they chose not to use it, or they meaning the LLM in this case. So these are kind of the core, findings from the paper. My sense is that ultimately, it is clearly working. People are using it. They're finding real value from it. So I think, sure, there are structural reasons why, the algorithm LLMs could be improved, but ultimately, and maybe this is my bias as being an operator and investor, I'm looking for ways in which folks are using it to improve their lives or solve problems. And obviously and clearly LLMs are doing that. So this feels like a bit more of a technical, nuanced, whataboutism sort of thing. And while, again, I appreciate the research that went into it, it feels like they're kind of missing the forest through the trees on this one. People are using LLMs. They're loving them. They're solving real problems. They're helping humans. They're, doing the right stuff. So I think not acknowledging that in this paper, kind of makes it feel a little bit tone deaf. But I do appreciate the technical depth and rigor of the paper and why it was necessary to, share some of these nuanced points around how exactly the LLM algorithms are working. Sure. So if that helps us improve things going forward, great. And I don't think anyone's walking around saying these things are conscious by any means today. So, consciousness is a whole other rabbit hole of a topic, but we're nowhere near that. So that alone is way out there. But anyway, they got to try and stay relevant. And so kudos for their attempt there.
Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, 100%. It benefits Apple to put out. I'm not going to take a dig at Apple, but they're a little bit behind on the curve in terms of all of the LLM research. 100% agree with the take on consciousness. I think that's a completely other separate discussion. I don't think we're there yet. The interesting test that they threw LLM, or the interesting test the paper through the LLM behind, is that, so they gave it a really long running task. Let's say like a game with a rule that has 10 plus steps. The problem with LLM right now is that with every single step, it's kind of like a dice roll. That's how I look at it, with like inherent probabilistic chance that it just doesn't work around, let's say, 70 or 80% chance. So after 10 steps, the LLM could be as far as off, 95% chance that it's completely off the course, and then it gives up. I think that's really interesting property of the LLMs right now, which means that you'll always have to have some kind of intervention. Maybe it could be another agent, LLM, that's always correcting its course, or human intervention. So I'm kind of like, from an engineering perspective, I'm wondering what the best way it is to change and use these things in a long running task. That's not just a one-off chat message or prompt. That's my biggest takeaway from this paper here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Arjun.
No, I think to that point, I think there are other ways of training that may help solve that in the longer run as we look at different models or methods for training. But yeah, I think it's still a very complex problem to say, okay, as we're going down this thread and the probabilities have decreased over time, how do we know that and understand it and then course correct without giving up and continuing down that kind of a probability tree in the right way? So these are those are incredibly complex problems that OpenAI engineers are working on. But I think there are some new AI technologies that are starting to bubble up around training at scale, and kind of having evolutionary methodologies for training that are really interesting, that may start to solve some unique cases of some of these problems, but won't be generally applicable. So just, I think, reinforces the interest, again, maybe more from an investor perspective, but there are vertical AI companies that are building their own models or training their own models for specific subsegments where they can potentially, reason more thoughtfully within more, confines of, with certain boundaries, right now, where they're limited into kind of a general intelligence perspective, but are limited by bounds of the vertical they're playing in. And within that context, there may be ways to, speed this up even faster. And maybe in some universe, we start to stitch those vertical things together in kind of a almost, meta agent-driven process that would search each of those vertical foundation models and then use that to find the solution. But these are all, for now, just thought exercises, and the market has to mature enough for that to be able to be possible.
What was Apple's motivation to put out a report like this? I think that's where a lot of people were confused. Not that I disagree with anything they said. I actually agree 100% with what their ultimate conclusion was, that, and I read it as like the paper trying to debunk AGI, that which I believe, we're not close to creating AGI. And I even wrote some notes where, and I've heard this before, but it's not popular to say, there's people way smarter than me who made the point that computation is not the same as consciousness. And there's a belief that AI is some ultimately just advanced form of computation. And that the debate is whether lots and lots of computation does consciousness emerge from it. And I think this paper says what I agree with is that it doesn't, that computation and consciousness are two separate things. We don't actually understand what consciousness is at all, which is a very philosophical conversation, right? And very academic. I liked when you started, Arjun, was hey, look, people are getting lots of value. These tools work. They're great. AI is awesome. There's vertical AI. There's all kinds of stuff happening. So why would Apple put something like this out? Is it just an academic paper that perhaps, they uploaded and caught, and at least just caught the attention of people on Twitter, or what do you think is going on?
Yeah, that last beat sounds like it's probably the most reality. I can't imagine the Apple PR team is putting this out with the intent of saying, "Hey, this is our formal stance." So it's likely more of a paper that caught fire and then turns into this conversation. So that would be my sense. But hey, who knows?
Yeah, I don't think it'll get beyond the nerd world in this podcast, but it's still really interesting. I love that they put it out. Actually, I thought that was quite cool. And I was reading some of it, I just was like, this is wild. Like, it's really interesting to see that they did that.
So I think this is actually a pretty good transition to the next one. And so to answer your question, I have a unhinged take, but maybe we can dig into Scale AI acquisition first and tie it back together with the Apple take. Okay, so we originally weren't going to include this, but I think it's a pretty big announcement that Meta announced a 49% acquisition of Scale AI. Essentially, Scale AI is they've been in the AI game for a really long time, since I would say 2019 or 2017, around that time scale, which is super interesting, I think, this acquisition, because Meta, since the launch of their Model 4, has been kind of falling behind on the foundational model curve. So with this acquisition, I think they are trying to recover internally on a new direction of their research. Yeah, I would love to see like where.
How does this like help them get ahead? I agree that they're falling behind. You know, they took the open source route, but how does this acquisition, you think, help them?
So personally, I think they are falling behind on attracting new talent. It's a complete talent pool. Companies are like OpenAI are attracting talent under the guise of we are almost reaching, super intelligence, and Meta has, for the very long time, kind of refused or danced around the notion that super intelligence AGI is around the corner.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that's important here is that the Scale AI understands data, right? So the data moat that gets created when Facebook has access to all the proprietary or semi-proprietary data that Scale AI has been able to aggregate and understand for AI use cases also creates, I think, another point of defensibility over time. And if in any you're only as good as your training data in any AI universe, and so this I think gives Meta a competitive advantage in that regard as well. Then certainly agree on the talent side, that definitely makes a lot of sense, and also just a continued commitment to the vertical. So I think sharing with the street and other folks that we are committed to AI in a meaningful way, and here we're taking active bets to help us accelerate in that direction, particularly in light of other kind of publicly traded companies doing similar things, or setting themselves up to do similar things. It's important that they make sure the street knows that they're not only talking about it, but they're committed to it. And obviously, they've already invested a tremendous amount, but this just continues to show that they're there.
Interesting. Paul, is there any specific technology that Scale has that Meta needs, or do you think it's just talent?
I think it's purely talent. I think Meta has a problem of attracting talent. That's my complete look. Some crazy numbers throwing around are they're throwing like $75 million to $100 million at top tier AI talent. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
The super intelligence team, they're throwing that money at those folks.
Yeah. I guess if you take that into account, right? So that coupled with this shows that like Meta is clearly like willing to spend and to try to get their whatever they need in terms of resources and that.
Right.
And that for some reason they don't necessarily have the firepower that maybe OpenAI or some of the other players in the marketplace.
Correct. And I think for the longest time they kind of danced around the notion that even the entire concept of LLM was a thing because of their last head of AI, or so like I think that's in terms of marketing. I mean, this is a marketing podcast. That's a very tough stance to stand behind in terms of tech, to be one of the large companies to say that LLM is not the future of AI.
I mean, if you just like at the highest level, the way I would break it down and the way I see it right now is like OpenAI is clearly the leader. And everyone I talk to, like I know customers right now that say they're getting significant amounts of traffic from ChatGPT,
Right.
which none of the other platforms are doing. That was like an eye opener. Maybe like I only started hearing that 6 weeks ago. And is the new number a billion users? Is that correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't be
That's what I-
surprised. Yeah, I don't know the exact
Yeah.
number, but that doesn't shock me.
Like holy moly, like that's like enormous, and like their tools are fantastic, right? So you're looking at like Claude, which has been able to build this very cool niche.
400 million weekly actives. Sorry, just to
Who has 400?
400 million weekly actives for ChatGPT.
That's a lot. Yeah.
I just looked at
Yeah, it's like it's a billion accounts or something. I mean, the numbers are just astonishing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you've got Claude in like I'm gonna say second place. I'm not convinced that Google's in second place with like AI mode and all that. It's kind of convoluted. I mean, you could probably spin it some way, but I think Claude's the one that's like built a business and people are using that regularly.
Mm-hmm.
Gemini and those things are interesting, but they've got a bunch of conflicts in terms of like how they're executing to their user base. And then like, Facebook, they put that AI bar on all their apps, but like I've never used it actually. I've never ever used any of those apps to do any kind of like AI stuff. So I can see how from the like Facebook perspective, they're like, we're behind. Like people are not using our tools in the same way that they're using other tools. Maybe they have a whole different way to go about using AI, which is kind of what I would argue, but they don't want to give up, right? They don't want to like be left out of the professional tool space. If I was them, I'd be just acquiring everyone, right? Just like whoever I get my hands on, Scale AI, any of these vibe coding tools like that. Meta would have a suite of developer tools, like seems really logical. Like I think a lot of developers would use it.
Interesting. Well, Zuckerberg actually came out and said that he wants to make AI best friends for everyone.
As friends?
AI like best friends for everyone. That's his like vision of AI.
That also stitches everything together in some way. He's bringing the metaverse coupled with bringing AI friends for everyone, coupled with the AI investments. So that, there's a cohesion in that narrative now. I don't know that I necessally want to have all my best friends be AI, but it's,
that's his vision.
But I get the intent. I get where he's going with that.
So
it's everyone says that. I think maybe our age and stuff, like we have this reaction. We're like, God, I don't really want an AI friend. But for me, what's an unknown is, do like non-Twitter nerds care, right? If you go on Instagram and it's a bunch of like AI stuff and you're 20 years old, does it even matter to you? And I also think that like the average person who's using Instagram, let's just assume that, they're so desperate for like interaction and engagement that I don't think they care if it's AI. And I think that that's what's motivating and like, I think that's what like Zuckerberg knows, that they've got this giant platform of people. They're not AI experts. They're not developers. They're not people like creating tools. They're not business users, right? They're just like regular people. They go on there, they post photos of their family. And if there's a bunch of AI stuff happening, like they might even like it. It might even be something that is enjoyable to them. So, and I just feel like I'm not a good person to even judge this.
Yeah, well, one thing we know is he does have the data, so I'm sure he knows and understands how people are engaging with their real friends and then what the implications are for how one might engage with a AI friend. So if you've got all the data around how people engage, how friendships start, grow, change, how they take photos together, I mean, the amount of information that Facebook has and Instagram has on relationships writ large via proxy through WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. I mean, they could craft the perfect friendship over a period of time, knowing that data just for you. So it gets real interesting real fast.
Has anyone tried any of those like friend AI? There are those devices and apps. Like I have no interest in it, so I haven't tried it. Like my wife won't even let us get an Alexa. She's like, we're not doing that. So like I've made my bed and I'm lying in it. But I'm curious about if you guys have tried that or no one has used any of those things. There are those like friendship apps, right?
The closest thing I've used is Tony AI, which is a conversational, like I can call it and talk through a particular idea, and it'll synthesize it into basically a post. But I think that's something that you maybe not necessarily building a relationship with, but it does get to know you over a period of time. So something like that is certainly interesting, but it's not necessarily friendship. And I guess being the business nerd that I am, I'm talking to AI about LinkedIn posts, but there might be other things to talk about. But yeah, there's they're starting to show up in all kinds of different places.
I would get excited by the use case, or like we keep talking about agents as employees and like on your team,
Yeah.
and that maybe they have a persona and you talk to them and you can interact with them multiple ways. They're on Slack and stuff like that. I can actually like imagine an engagement and a like universe where that's not even creepy. Like, all right, those are my AI bots and they're on Slack. They're kind of like real people. And maybe they even have like I would give them names and stuff. It would be kind of fun. Like I could see how this could become something that I would fully embrace, right? So I think there's a future that this stuff all plays out. Like I think it's inevitable. It all plays out like this at some point. I don't know when.
Interesting. Shall we move on to?
Okay, yeah. What do we got next?
Every season, YC puts out a request for startups list. This one is the summer 2025 edition. I thought it's super interesting. If you go down the list of 14 ideas or a call for proposals or requests for startups, however you want to frame it, almost all of them are AI startups ideas, except maybe one, which is software tools for robots.
Did you see this, Arjun?
Yeah, and I'm just going through this list. I've probably seen a handful of companies working on each of these spaces. So, I would say voice AI, we just talked about that kind of interesting idea. The AI personal assistant kind of tied to that. I think that one, feels like something that Apple could knock out at some point in time in some capacity, but they've been pretty particular about getting access to, people's data and have, had a hard line around getting or engaging with that access to emails or text messages. So I think that makes it harder, but you've got to find a way to be able to get access to those things to make that truly helpful. Healthcare AI, I think, happening, everywhere, particularly on the data system side. That piece to the introduction, was involved with the St. Francis Foundation and saw some of the inside administrative realities of hospitals. And there's a lot of work to be done just to help smooth some of that over. And that's kind of outside of the actual technologies like RAD AI, which is looking at radiology and actually looking at images and using AI to understand what might be going on. This, I think, point is specifically about automating the healthcare data system, so all the workflows that live inside healthcare. I'm on the board of a company called Zentist, which is doing this just for payments. But please, yeah.
I was gonna say I went to one medical this morning for like a checkup, and I had to agree verbally to be recorded by AI.
Yeah.
And that they had a healthcare scribe assistant. I guess it's just a microphone in the room. Like I didn't have to do anything. But before you go in, they're like, "Do you agree to be recorded by AI?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, cool. I'm all for it." Right. So yeah, that was super interesting. Man, the stuff's already out there in the marketplace, right?
Totally. Yeah, that just helps doctors. All that time that they need to spend transcribing things on the back end, just immediately done, and they can move forward. So that's pretty cool. The other one that jumped out, AI voice assistants for email. I thought that was pretty cool. Just to be able to talk through my mailbox,
Nice.
while I'm driving, that would be awesome. Get way too many emails, so it would be nice to be able to process email, in that way. And then on the personal finance side, there's some great tools like obviously Copilot Money and all the stuff from the Rocket internet folks, the former Truebill, which you mentioned as well earlier. I feel like these incumbents have an opportunity to integrate AI into the personal finance stack already. So if you've built the connectivity and gone through all the hassle of being able to help people plug in all their accounts, the next obvious step feels like they can just integrate AI in, into those pre-existing platforms. So that feels like a spot where it's probably better suited for incumbents than startups. But if someone builds a truly kind of AI native experience from day one, that you can almost talk to about your financial life and still integrates everything via Plaid or however else they do it, and makes that pretty seamless, that could be compelling. It's, hey, I just bought a house, or I'm just, thinking about buying a home, and how should I think about planning, or I'd like to save for a vacation. Can you keep me on track, and ping me if I'm spending too much on Apple devices or whatever it might be. That way you kind of get the pushback you need to hit your goals. So that feels like something maybe there's an AI native application for that could be interesting. I think those sorts of companies just every generation we have, a really interesting new personal finance business, starting with Mint way back in the day, if you remember that one. But I feel like we've had another interesting one every few years.
You're definitely spending too much on Apple adapters and cables. I can tell you that.
You can see it already. I got all the things.
I have like a pile of them now. There's like, and then I got a new laptop, and they went back to some things, and like I was like, oh my god, yeah. So we know the answer. I don't need AI to figure that one out.
That one's easy.
I thought this was. I had to make fun of this. Like this post. I get like that they're serious about like all of these categories, but I just thought they were quite funny. Like it was literally like. Startup for AI, fill in the blank. Like it was just basically everything, right? Like finance, healthcare, full stack AI, like just everything with AI on it, which is quite funny. So I couldn't help but like,
it's like we're going back to the Uber 4X days.
Yeah, exactly. Poke some fun at it. Although I thought like design founders is interesting. Maybe I fall into that category. I'm finding like a lot of utility with these tools, like all the graphics I create for this podcast, right? That's all done with AI, and it emerged from like me experimenting. And I was like, oh, if I take our LinkedIn photos, can I get AI to like just put them together? And I was like, what? And then I realized like if I added Arjun, it could just put them into the design. I couldn't believe it. Like it's amazing, and it can do all the text and everything. So there's lots of cool stuff happening out there. And I like that they're pushing for that. Like people are utilizing these tools and trying to get to the next level and produce interesting things. I think a lot will emerge from that. And then on the agent side, there is so much cool stuff happening. I've been working with some companies that are building MCP server protocols. Had a call with another guy that had a startup that they had a custom agent builder. And what they found was like a little early, there wasn't a huge demand. So they built a bunch of like pre-built agents, and they have thousands of people using these things.
Yeah, very cool. What are some of those use cases out of curiosity, dude? What are some of the agents that are getting the traction?
It sounded to me from the short conversation we had was that a lot of them were some form of a chat bot. But like my understanding of it is that if you're like a small community, like you have a Discord server or something like that, it's not easy to get a chatbot to monitor and manage that for you. And I guess what he told me was like people are using offshore labor to do that right now. So you've got like a big Discord community of 50,000 people. They're hiring like offshore labor to kind of be the moderator, and that they have a pre-built bot that can just moderate for you. And if it struggles anything, it flags it to like a real person. Like it's pretty basic actually. We think about like what it needs to do. And I don't know a place where I could go get one of those easily right now. Like if I needed like an AI moderator, how would I do that? So that was a pretty cool use case. Also, it was interesting that like custom ones were like not something people were ready for.
Right.
Yeah, that there's just too much overhead. Like what do I do with it? My guess too is that I think a lot of so if they go like, I don't know if this is SMB, but they go like small market, I think pre-built will be really popular. If there's all kinds of this, maybe this even goes back to George's conversation about AI coworkers. Like it'll be normal for everyone to have like an AI chat bot. You could have an internal, right? Like, hey, we got a 100-person company. Ask the bot. The bot would just know everything rather than having like assistants and stuff, right? Is someone scheduled a meeting? Why did this get canceled? What's happening here? Like there's all kinds of basic stuff. So the idea of like these AI coworkers, I think is coming really soon.
For developers, that would be really helpful. We have a term called rubber ducking, which is like you talk to a rubber duck on your desk to debug things.
Okay. Yeah.
So like
just as a way to talk it out. Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that would be really good.
Yeah.
Was there anything on here that was surprise I mean, they all seem straight. AI, healthcare, software tools, robots, future education, security. Like they all seem pretty obvious. Nothing was like,
Yeah.
we talked about the personal finance.
Residential security was kind of interesting, is that if you have, the effective
Yeah.
AI kind of, multiple cameras in your house, and then it's tracking you versus your family versus random intruders, and then can alert the right people. So it has an understanding, or if the neighbor's dog walks by, it's not going to freak out, that sort of thing, whereas other things might, take different action, and maybe integrates with your calendar. So it knows if people are delivering things, or, email. So it doesn't, take issue, or if one of your friends is staying over, you can just talk to it and say, "Hey, buddy's coming by late at night to deliver something. Don't call the police."
Right.
So I don't know. There could be something interesting there.
Huh. That is interesting. I hadn't thought, I didn't interpret that way. I like it. Like, hey, it doesn't turn the lights on when your kids are sneaking home late, or
Yeah,
or
exactly.
your neighbor.
Yeah,
You're on vacation and your neighbor comes and he doesn't
Yeah.
set off the alarm. Actually, there's a ton of use cases.
Yeah, there's a
that
ton
I
of those
had.
use cases, right? Where you can like
Not that I
flag.
ever snuck home late and came into the
Yeah,
window
gotcha.
or anything. I never did that. Yeah, that's like dad mode. Like, please don't notify mom that our son
Yeah.
came home late. And yeah, I would totally program that in.
That's great. See, these are real AI use cases.
Bring commercial grade AI security. I thought they were talking about, or maybe there's another way to interpret this, is like digital. I thought it was like family networks, digital security, and maybe it's both. Like, I actually
Maybe
like
it's
the
both,
physical,
yeah. Mhm.
real world security too. Like,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah.
people need that.
Mhm.
But home security, like my brother has his own home network, and he does a bunch of like stuff with his kids and everything. And so I think there's more of that. And there's all kinds of weird stuff that could happen. Like that
Yeah.
goes to, I'd be really worried about like hacking and people doing weird stuff. Just
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, great point. Mhm. I mean, ideally, something you just plug right into your modem, or in something that can watch all the packets coming in and out, and just understand if
Right.
something's weird, and then make sense of it. I mean, just all the corporates obviously have these solutions endlessly, but there isn't kind of an easy, obvious home solution for that. So that's a good point. Yeah.
Right, like you could just put it on, and so like grandma or whatever, like, don't worry, mom, I got this thing, so that your phone, everything is all protected, and
Yeah.
like you're not going to get scam calls. Like there'd
Mhm.
be a huge market for that. Like it just was like a blanket system, made it really simple.
Yeah.
It just was like a shield around your house, so grandma
Yeah.
doesn't get scammed.
Yeah. There you go. The marketing writes itself.
Oh, maybe I'm getting old enough. Maybe I even need that. I'm like, oh. All right, that was fun. What's next?
Apple WWDC 25. I mean, it was this week. I think it ends today. Today's the last day. Love to get your take on it, if there is any.
Yeah, it sounds like the big reaction was to this kind of UI that was see-through, and that's what folks were going
The glass.
crazy about, the glass. Yeah, so I think there was a lot of hilarity that ensued on X around this particular topic. I don't necessarily have a strong reaction in either direction. It just feels like Apple continues to innovate and push boundaries on UI and UX, and I don't know that it's going to change my Apple experience dramatically, but I can certainly see how it makes for good Twitter fodder. So that was fun.
Yeah.
Did they launch a new device?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did they launch a new OS?
Just a new OS, new design system.
Transparent thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. I guess so. I remember when WDC was like the place to be. Maybe, was it 15 years ago now? 10 years ago? It used to be really big. We used to do events around it and everything, and then it kind of faded. And then GTC, like NVIDIA GTC, has become that, where everybody wants to be, all the startups. So it's lost its luster, which isn't a huge surprise, right? Like they've been kind of milking all the inventions that Steve Jobs has created for years now. And kudos to them. Like they've done a lot of internal things in terms of like making that company so efficient. It's really impressive. It's not as impressive from like an innovation or like product perspective or consumer level, or like products that you and I would experience. So I think that's why it's like perhaps not as interesting to people. I did personally like watch some of it, and I kind of look at Apple and now as someone who's like a huge fan of it too, for like since I was a kid, I guess, right? Like I've been following Steve Jobs since I was little, like literally, and they seem like a caricature of what they once were. Like I feel like it's like if Apple fanboys went and started a company, it would be Apple today. Like I was watching some of these videos and stuff. It just seems like they've got this very like over polished professional approach that I feel like perhaps we've moved beyond. And the point that I always make with this one in particular is that I remember the day when I saw the first video I've ever seen of Larry Ellison talking, and he filmed it on his phone. And I knew at that moment, like, oh my God, everything has changed. Like, it's not unprofessional to just do like a TikTok style video or just do a broadcast like what we're doing. It's totally accepted now in the business world. Where I think prior to COVID, everything, aimed to be television quality, professional production value. Like if you didn't do that, you weren't serious. And I feel like Apple's kind of been left behind. Like they still kind of approach it that way, but I don't think that's how the market perceives things. And so they for me, they seem a bit behind the times, which is so surprising for a company that was
interesting,
so innovative,
right,
and had really interesting like marketing for a very long time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think the marketing world to that point has shifted dramatically towards more of this kind of authentic connection and with human beings versus necessarily with a faceless brand. And we're still early in that kind of transition. And there's certain pockets of it where it's taking off more than others, but it feels like that's not not at all a game they're playing in any capacity in terms of how their marketing is going. And they've stayed kind of tried and true to their tops down big announcement style, which again feels very Apple. I think it would be a big shock if they went hardcore influencer only right out the gate. So it'd have to be a transition over time to integrate more of that. But it feels like, to your point, Gregory, they've stayed like really sharp on that side of the spectrum today.
Yeah, I mean, they've got innovator's dilemma, right? I don't know what I would do if I was them. Like, would just go all casual. It would see super weird. Like Tim Cook shows up with a skateboard, is like, "Hello, fellow kids," right? It just would be like a meme. It just wouldn't make any right. It wouldn't make any sense at all. Like that'd be even worse. I'm like, yo, Tim, just like just do that. Just keep doing what you gotta do.
I mean, so if Zuckerberg could have made the transformation that he did.
Yeah, that's fair. But he did it over like 3 years, right? And I think it was very well crafted.
Of course,
and he started a little small, and then kind of made his way to surfing in a tux in Lake Tahoe on the back of a surfboard or whatever.
Right.
So, yeah, it takes a while to get there.
So fair point. I guess like, okay, if I was running Apple, or what would be my recommendation for them to like overcome this? They remind me of like classic brands from New York when I was younger and I worked in like cosmetics and beauty. And what they would do, or what some of them did, just acquire younger brands and just make it opaque. Like no one knows. So if I was Apple, I would just try to maybe experiment like starting a new brand, find a new thing, like try to get into like what the kids are up to, but just do it at arm's length, right? So that it doesn't poison what they're doing, because they're so huge. They're like an excellent company, the best company ever, right? And so don't like just keep milking that, like keep doing that, and then try to invest in other brands. I think that part would be. At least I would try it, right? They've got nothing to lose. They can even do it in secret. They could just like buy parts of like cool, interesting companies that are doing like hardware, software stuff in the consumer space. Like they've got a ton of money, So I don't know. Could they like maybe were they even bidding for TikTok or something like that?
I mean, I think they tried to do that, right, with the acquisition of Beats.
Yeah.
That was huge.
That's a great example. Yeah. Yeah.
But what happened?
Yeah, they were criticized for it too. They just own it, right?
No, but they integrated it into their stores. You could buy Beats headphones, and actually, that's a great example. I think that one worked well for them. Yeah.
Right. They just need to do more.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I love that. I would love to see them like. I wish they would do more hardware stuff. Like, I know they wouldn't do this, but for some reason, I watched this Tetris documentary about these kids who were like setting world records on Tetris, which was awesome. I don't know how I stumbled into it. It was really fun. And because I watched that on YouTube, sort of like putting all these like indie video game videos and stuff, and people are making like all these really interesting like devices out. There's all kinds of stuff happening in the hardware space I wasn't aware of. I don't spend a lot of time in games. I have a lot of free time, but it felt like something like, why couldn't Apple be exploring with that? Like trying like devices that are like dedicated to gaming or something. Like they might be able to carve out a space. The way Microsoft built Xbox, they did a really good job, right? Like they put all this money up front. They hired all these great game developers. They built this cool brand. They did exactly, guess what I'm suggesting? Like Microsoft brand is like not cool. It's a huge business. It's really successful. So they're like, how do we get hip and cool and do stuff for the kids? We'll create this whole new Xbox thing. And I would say from a high level, they succeeded.
Yeah.
Xbox is cool. It was a success. People love it, right? Like, so Apple could do something similar from that perspective. And even have a model like with how, Xbox did.
Right. Yeah.
That's a great recommendation. They've kind of alienated the gaming community a little bit through Epic Games. They just, this whole thing just settled on the fact that they take 30%.
Yeah, 30%.
In everything. So Epic Games just got the judgment that they're allowed to now charge off of the platform.
Oh, okay. That happened
just
today, or wow.
Maybe a couple of weeks ago. That's a huge. That was a huge news.
All right. Okay. So here's my pitch. If I was going to speak Tim Cook, I'd have one slide, and I would say, you guys need to stop being perceived as focusing on extraction, and start being perceived as focusing on innovation. And you got to get back to being the Apple that you once were, and then everyone loved.
100%.
One slide. Thank you very much.
Where do I send the invoice?
Oh, tell Tim Cook to call me. I'm on Twitter all the time.
Go.
All right. What do we got? We have one. Do we have one more?
No, I removed it. I think let's move on to Reddit threads.
Okay.
So
I like this one.
So one part of our segment is we just go on Reddit. We try to stick to SaaS or startup related subreddits to just kind of see what people are asking about, what people are talking about. Sometimes people ask really cool things. Do you want to take the first one?
Yeah, this was mine. So this was a cool post on the SaaS community. So Reddit/SaaS. He posted or they posted. It finally happened. Got my first paying user. I was seriously thinking of shutting down my product yesterday. After a week of marketing and receiving mixed feedback, I started to feel like it wasn't going to work out, which I want to point out, like he only did marketing for a week and wanted to give up. So if you're out there trying to market your indie SaaS thing, like keep going. Like it's going to take more than 1 week, but there's a great moral of the story. So this morning I woke up to a notification. Someone purchased the premium version. Man, what an overwhelming and incredible feeling to start the day. I'm feeling more devoted than ever to keep going and genuinely grateful for this little win. Huge thanks everyone who shared valuable feedback. So I love that this story, like the guy was like working on this thing, and I see these all the time with these SaaS projects, and couldn't get any sales and spent a whole entire week doing marketing. Is really disappointed. And then he finally got a sale. I just thought it was excellent. It's just like a really simple Reddit post, quite positive, which isn't always the case with content on Reddit. And he had like a lot of nice feedback. So I thought it was cool.
Yeah, that's chasing the entrepreneurial dragon. It's the best feeling in the world when it starts to work. But I'll second the grit point. I think if you're going to be a founder, it's hard. I don't know if, I don't want to be the old guy and be like, back in my day, we used to, have to eat glass for 10 weeks just to get one reply back, let alone a sale. But, I think there's, that's great. It's always fun to see people win. And when you start to see that success, and then the next part is when it starts to snowball. And so when 1 turns into 10, turns into 100, and things really start to roll, that's the next feeling that I think is worth the Reddit post. But it takes resolve, so you got to keep at it.
That was good. A whole week of marketing, and then the tool was even interesting. Do we have the URL in there? So it was a way to organize screen captures, which I thought was kind of a cool tool.
Great. Yeah.
Yes, that was the other reason I wanted.
Yeah,
I wanted to feature that. He's got a way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a cool tool. How to organize screenshots. I take a lot of these. People take a lot of these. The idea that there's a way to kind of organize these, I thought was like super.
I thought it's
Yes.
smart. I have 200 files on my desktop. That's all screenshots.
Same problem. Right? Yeah, this is amazing. This is great. Yeah.
So he's solving a good problem, because Paul and I love to joke in this segment how we're just tired of seeing like product hunt clones and directories of other SaaS, but like in the SaaS Reddit world, people kind of hit on the same products all the time. So when I see something different, I like to highlight it and give them some.
This is great. I would totally pay for this. To your point, I have so many just random images, and getting them all off my desktop into one place, and then having hopefully in an ideal world, the AI auto tags everything for me, and I don't have to do it myself. That would be really awesome. But I assume he just got started, so he'll get there soon enough. But that would be
feature
awesome.
request.
Feature request. Yeah. Please understand the content that I've uploaded, put it into its respective folders, and then I'm happy to pay to keep it safe and not have it clog up my desktop. So that would be great. Plus, it's like a living history of your of your time on your computer. It's almost like a little scrapbook of your life. It's kind of fun to track it from that perspective. So, could have like a Google Photos like visual story with some music behind it about all your screenshots over the years.
Yeah, and they did a good job too. I like the way the site was put together. They made it really clear there was like a free trial and there's a paid version. They got FAQ at the bottom. Like they did everything right. I think
it's a great looking website.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, getting it set up. So hopefully he'll get some more
I was going to say, hopefully get a couple more.
Yeah. All right, that's a nice one. And then this one is another that I pulled, right? All right, because this was a little different. This was good. So this was in SaaS too, right? This guy posted this thing saying, sending 15 emails every day changed my life completely. Every morning before I head to the office, I send 15 cold DMs. It's the single most important habit I've built. As a student, cold emailing let me build cancer simulations with PhDs while in high school, land $100,000 GTM roles at startups, schedule 4 full-time big tech interviews in under 7 days. And he goes on like to all the success he's had. And there's some nice comments, but there's a lot of people that were kind of mean and doing very Reddit trolling on here, saying like how foolish this was, or just kind of hating on this guy. And I called out this one person who responded because there was just a lot of like negative feedback and replies on this, which I think was ridiculous. And so someone said, huge respect for this. I feel sorry for anyone who sees this post and feels compelled to write something negative. Success is about simple daily habits that compound. Then he replied with a long post about like, how people are being super critical. And so I see this all the time on Reddit that like generally when people are negative, it's because they're jealous or envious. And people really don't, for some reason, like a lot of the success stories that are on here, particularly if they sound trite or they're like similar types of things that get recycled on the internet. I mean, there's a lot of things that people say about like habits and cold plunges that everyone likes to make fun of, right? But I think like this is a great one, and like a habit of like sending 15 messages or DMs or whatever you do every morning is a great one and something I've had success with as well.
Yeah, the only reason I'm here is because I sent hundreds of thousands of emails, out the gate in the early days of ReTargeter, and that's we had to start cold, and then eventually started to build a network and a series of relationships, and that then led to being able to send warm emails, and now send hundreds of those, every week. So, reaching out into the world and connecting with folks and asking for what you want, it's the only way you actually get anything else. So you're going to get kind of what you want without reaching out. So, this is the essence of the entrepreneurial ethos. And so I think that's awesome, and I have nothing but respect for that. And that's what it takes to build. So, and the Reddit kind of negativity is anytime you jump on the internet, people are somebody's going to have an opinion or get triggered or be upset. And so you have to focus on what you want and execute. So, yeah.
What tips do you have for people who perhaps want to or will cold DM someone like you?
It has to be highly personalized and feel like there's been a tremendous amount of thoughtfulness and research that's gone into that, just to kind of cut through the noise, because there's a lot of volume of stuff that comes through. Or, the other thought is not make it cold, make it warm. So find a warm introduction and use that as the way to get in. But cold emails that reference specific things that show that there's a real desire to connect for a reason that makes sense and is thoughtful and is highly personalized. Those can get through the filters. Certainly, but you do that coupled with a warm introduction, and now you're really talking. So that, I think, is key.
Paul, do you respond to cold emails that you get?
Very rarely, and I don't even get that many.
No, I'm probably like 1 in 1,000 is, I think, probably where I'm at.
Yeah.
If it's relevant, a lot of time I'll write back. Like some kid was pitching, I don't know, I can't even remember what he was pitching, but he had some podcast, and so I did it. And it was super funny. Like I got on there, and he was totally shocked that I did it. His little podcast. I was happy to do it. It wasn't like a lot of effort for me.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I will respond to people who are pitching me because I want to hear their pitch. Like I'm just always curious, like what people are doing out in the world and getting like just some feedback on what people are doing when it comes to sales. Like, are they doing things that are different than what I would? Or am I going to learn anything from this? And so sometimes I just like to hear people's sales pitch. I'm usually pretty like straightforward. Like, hey, I'm not really in the market for this. I don't want to like, create the wrong expectation. But I like to listen to what they have and understand how they do the proposal. And sometimes I learn things from it.
What about cold DMs? On Twitter?
I've responded,
LinkedIn?
No.
Twitter, I've responded to some cold DMs and had some,
Wow.
I don't know if it's cold. So I closed a customer recently this way.
Okay.
I don't remember. I don't know if that's technically cold. I can't remember like how he found me or how we connected on X, but I got a DM and it was not someone I typically DM. And he was like asking something about Viber SaaS and what I do. And I wrote him back and said, hey, you're a candidate for this product that I have. And boom, I sent him the link. And he's like, this looks good. And I was like, let's jump on a call. And we jumped on a call and he bought it. So it's almost like, yeah. I guess I've sold stuff over Twitter DMs. How's that?
Gotcha. Have you responded to people soliciting?
Have I bought
Have you
something?
bought anything? Correct.
Yeah. So these guys so I did go to a sales call once. These guys had an AI tool, I was looking for some kind of like an AI Twitter automation tool. Just trying to check them out.
Yeah.
And so I went to their sales call for it. And they had a tool that like did all of the people hate this stuff, but the AI comments that you see all over the place, they had a tool to do that. It was kind of expensive because they had to pay for the token. So that was one thing. Like I was like, I'm not a candidate. Like the thing seemed really expensive. But what I want to let people know is that they had use cases that made sense. So while I'm not a big fan of these auto commenting things, and they generally provide really low value comments, I feel like they maybe even have people stop using it. They were able to show like use cases that made sense. So if it was like customer service or like the CEO of certain types of companies, they actually were appropriate. So like there's some issue somewhere. I'm just using an example because they have tons of issues. PG&E, right? And so they could go out and actually comment on everything that says like PG&E sucks and everything's down and what's going on. And a bot would say like, it's a known issue. There's an outage. And it's gonna be like, that would be useful. And they had a couple of examples like that. So I wasn't a fan of it for like personal use, but I actually think that there's ways that those things can be valuable.
Wow. How about you, Arjun?
No, I think I opened my Twitter DMs for a while. I think I'm going to shut them back off. It got a little chaotic in there, so I think I have to turn it back off. I got a lot of requests to join DAOs, so that was fun. But all kinds of other crazy stuff. So I think mine is unfortunately I have to turn it off after this.
I guess I never look at the inbound DMs on LinkedIn. They have a different folder, right? It's like it just goes to this black hole. Somehow on X, I have like all these DMs where I talk to people, and sometimes there's like another, and I don't get that many. I don't feel like I get that many, and so I'm able to I do look at them. But on LinkedIn, I never ever look at them ever. So I don't know.
It's wild. Reddit DMs are actually pretty good.
Oh, yeah. I
People
have to do
make
a lot of Reddit
of
DMs.
effort in the DMs. So I personally answer a lot of Reddit DMs. Just people asking for help. Yes, they pitch you their products, but mostly it's just people generally asking for help. So I do respond to those a lot more than anywhere else.
I've had at least like 10 or 15 customer calls from Reddit DMs.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I don't get a lot of erroneous or spam DMs. Like you have to accept people or something. So they have to queue you and say, and then they have to be approved. So generally, if the first one is not something I'm interested in, I don't respond, or I just like ignore them. But I hardly get any that are like junk.
Agreed. Shall we move on to meme of the week?
Yeah. Yes, we'll wrap up and just do meme of the week. Are you gonna share this?
I will. Which
Okay.
one?
This one takes a lot. Do this one. This one takes some explanation. It's funny though. It's like trying to explain memes to my wife sometimes. She's just like, what?
Memes are a thing that you kind of have to be
this one needs to be explained. So like with I think it's hilarious. So with the scale Facebook, let's call it acquisition. Someone made this with AI. So this one is like an actual rendering or an augmentation of the Johnny Ives and Sam Altman photo that they did for their collaboration. And someone did a version with Zuckerberg and what's his Alexander from Scale AI.
Yeah.
But of course, like I had to give them the broccoli TikTok haircuts and the earrings. So I think it's great. I think for me, this was meme of the week for sure. But what do you think, Arjun? C+?
That's a good one. No, I like it. It's the next generation. Got to keep generationally relevant here. So I'm with you.
The best part was like my wife actually got the broccoli haircut piece. She's like, "Oh my god, there's those broccoli haircuts that your cousins are into or whatever." Oh, that was fun.
Okay.
Well,
Shall
Arjun,
we wrap up?
Yeah. I was gonna say, Arjun, did you enjoy being on the show today?
Oh, this was great. It was a fun conversation. Good to wind our way through lots of interesting topics, and it was great that we covered everything from AI technical depth all the way to marketing insights and the whole 9 yards. This was a blast. Thank you both for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Yeah,
Kept it nerdy.
great. Yeah, super nerdy. I love it.
I think Paul and I both were like, that's going to be our differentiator. Like, there's so many podcasts out there. How's yours different? Don't worry, ours is only for nerds. Like, it's really nerdy, right? We'll talk about the news, but we'll only do the nerdy parts.
That's great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you both so much. This was fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you
talk soon. See ya.
Take care.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. Bye.